Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. My name is Christina. This is a reading for Capricorn, or if you're just feeling drawn to this message for whatever reason, then it's for you. The main focus of your reading today are 3 questions. What's your current energy? How can you shift your focus? And where is an area of growth? So I've already pulled your cards, Capricorn. We're going to start with the bottom of the deck energy, which is kind of interesting today because I'm using the Prism deck and you got anger and sadness. Which is interesting because perhaps there's that energy sort of in like the shifting of your focus, but it's coming out with the authentic expression. Just interesting, like the the blue and the red here. And so I feel like there's a message here of like, there may be sort of this underlying energy of anger and sadness, but that it is absolutely an authentic expression of who you are, that anger and sadness are not sort of like lesser emotions. They are sort of part of the experience of being human, I want to say. But there may be this sort of energy of like, because you have here the page of emotions, right? All this red and blue. I almost said green again. All this red and blue energy, which is saying that if you are feeling anger or sadness, that's absolutely sort of an authentic expression. It is sort of necessary to feel, I want to say. The only issue is if it lasts for a long time, right? Longer than sort of the energy needs to be there, then that's when it becomes sort of maladaptive. But that's true for like all sort of emotions, not just anger and sadness. So there may be something here of like actually allowing yourself to feel those emotions, or like letting them sort of flow through you and then like letting it go. And then you have here the 7 of materials underneath that. I took it just because I feel like there's this energy here in the focus area, the second question, that where this dynamic may be playing out. So I'll get back to this. But we're starting here with what's your current energy. The first thing that you have here is protection, ideation, and trust. And so what this was feeling like is I feel like that you, Capricorn, are sort of creating something, or you have ideas, or wanting to sort of move into this ideation, which is about creation. I see this ideation card as like a blueprint, right? Like putting sort of pen to paper, perhaps. Brainstorming maybe, perhaps just like, it could also be with the ideation sort of like daydreaming or thinking about what the next thing is or that kind of thing. But with the protection card here coming out, I feel like it's like not clear yet. It was kind of feeling like this is almost like locked away from you. Something is locked away. So you can't quite access it, and that's where the trust comes in, because it's like you are wanting to sort of create something or tap into your creativity or something like that. But because it's like sort of, it's locked away, perhaps you have like a mental cramp, or just like, what's the word I'm looking for writer's block. That's what it is. Maybe there's like a writer's block or like a creativity block that's happening for you, perhaps, and just sort of surrendering to that process. Because I'm seeing here the strength card, right? It's it's like a thought bubble, but it's very rigid. There's sort of like a confinedness to it, or like a block, right? Like a physical block. It's like the thoughts aren't moving. There's not perhaps any like new or fresh ideas or something like that. Well, this anger card as well. Sometimes how I see this, if it's not anger necessarily, it's any sort of energy that disrupts your focus or your clarity or your sight, right? So there could be some sort of energy here where it's like you're not necessarily seeing what the next thing is, because it may be actually purposely locked away from you at the moment. And what's great here is that you have the gratitude card, which I love, because I feel like this is sort of like you being in that trusting energy where you know that the next thing will come when it is time. Because there's all this sort of, you have here the Chariot and the Wheel. this chariot has come out so much off as this cycle of readings. I don't know. I feel like it's like every other reading at least, or multiple readings in a row, that this chariot card comes out, which talks about your personal strength, your ability to create things, your movement forward. But it is also strength as well. Like, this strength is kind of strange. Like, it's not a typical strength card where it's talking like, I've interpreted this before as being sort of like a set of rules or expectations within a given condition. So I feel like you are working with what you have kind of at the moment, but there is sort of this wheel element. I see this as being like, because it's associated with the moon cycles, that there is sort of a timing element here at play, that perhaps you're in sort of the new moon, where we just passed the new moon, but in this sort of like trying to bring in the next manifestation, and it kind of requires some aspect to be revealed still, and you can't see what that is yet. There is sort of this measure of protection, of like, it's not yet clear, but you are in this sort of like gratitude, perhaps just like embracing the uncertainty, right? Understanding that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, and part of that human experience is sort of having the authentic expression, but also that there is a time dimension on our physical experience, that there is time associated with it. But what I'm seeing here is that there will be some sort of reveal, is how I'm reading this Mask card today. There's going to be some sort of reveal where all that information is going to be made clear. With the Deja Vu, I interpret this card as being sort of like two realities, or like two versions of things, where one is sort of the astral spiritual, where that like the as above so below, where the spiritual manifestation, I want to call it, happens first, and you may actually experience that or receive some sort of understanding of what that is, like a preview perhaps, and then it will play out in your physical environment. So I feel like your current energy is like, you may soon be actually getting that preview with the Hierophant of being like, something is coming. You're getting a heads up about it right now. You're getting a heads up about it right now with this Hierophant, like seeking inner guidance, going to your higher self and like figuring out what it is that you're not seeing. You're getting a preview, but I want to say it's something like this, like with the Seven of Inspiration and the Ace of Inspiration, because I'm seeing this as you as sort of like breaking through whatever this protection energy is, right? It's like sort of like pulling the veil aside, that kind of thing, in order to let this energy in. So you may be actually receiving sort of a lot of like new ideas, that kind of thing. So a protection aspect may be kind of like being removed in this current energy, so that you can start to get sort of a preview of what is coming. That's interesting. Okay. I'm going to move to how can you shift your focus, which is kind of interesting today. Your reading's very like meta, where it's like there's like a lot of levels to it. So I'm not sure if that's how that's going to play out, but you have these three cards. Beautiful colors, but the energy is hunger, frustration, and pain, which is so interesting, because this hunger card I talk about as like your solar plexus, right? But it's also talking about like this Ace of Inspiration, because look at all these similar colors. But I feel like it's not something that you expect, right? It's like you are receiving information because of this ideation card. It's like brainstorming, right? These are the plans that you're making. These are the blueprints. And then I see this frustration card as being the actual physical manifestation arriving in your life. But oftentimes, the physical manifestation is not exactly the way that you envisioned it. There's something off about it, and that causes frustration, and perhaps in your case it may be causing pain. And the reason why this is your area of focus, you have this rebirth card, which is exactly what I just described, where it's like you have this vision, right? A very sort of blueprint-like idea of what it is you want to create, or what it is that's coming up for you or next for you or whatever. And then something arrives, which is a blue circle, right? It matches some sort of condition that you try to manifest, but it is not exactly the right match. So why this is feeling very meta today is because of the strength card. Because I've said before that this stone looks like a jasper stone. And so that's the idea that you're wanting to create. I want to like manifest a jasper stone, and it's like I actually have a jasper stone that looks incredibly similar to this, right? It's like this is the thing arriving in your physical environment, something that you can touch, interact with. It's very tangible, but it's not an exact match. It's similar. There's so much similarity between these two things, but it's not quite right. Is how it's feeling. It's not quite right, and I feel like perhaps that's causing discomfort in some way, because you do have the protection card. Because I describe this card as being like protection, the energy of protection, which is the second protection card that you have, right? There's something here that is perhaps not visible to you yet. Some aspect, especially because you have the moon energy. You have the moon energy here in this section, which is further emphasizing the fact that perhaps it is something that will take time. It may be the full moon. Maybe the full moon may reveal some sort of aspect that you're not seeing, but we are sort of just past the new moon phase of the current moon right now. And so there may be something there where it's like, it reveals something that perhaps puts you off balance a little bit, is how I see this protection card. And especially because of the anger and sadness here, there may be something to do with that. And I know that's not an easy message to hear, but there is sort of this message here that if you are experiencing sort of anger and sadness, because you have this card here, the ecstasy card, which has been such an interesting card recently in this, it's like since I've been using this deck, because there's another card, the Hanged Muse, which is a complete set to this. That's how I view these two cards. There's a complete set. It creates sort of the complete waveform, which talks about a peak and a valley. And in order to have the complete waveform or the complete picture, you do need to have both aspects. And so you may be in an energy of, or if you're not feeling this yet, that may be something that is sort of revealed through this moon energy, is that there may be some sort of experience of anger or sadness, perhaps. But what this ecstasy card is saying is that you absolutely need this aspect in order to feel the ecstasy part. Because if you don't experience this part first, then you don't know what this feels like. You wouldn't even recognize this, because this is the exact opposite. There's this study that I'm being reminded of for this ecstasy card of like, if you take pictures of athletes while they're celebrating, right? They're expressions of ecstasy, right? They've just won something. They've accomplished something really difficult. They won some sort of prize, and you just take a snapshot of their face when they in that expression. And then if you also take pictures of athletes or people who are in so much pain, right? Pain, they lost, they hurt themselves, that kind of thing. And if you put them side by side and you ask people, which one is the celebrating athlete? it's impossible to tell the difference, or like the statistical analysis reveals that most people pick wrong in that situation. If there's an expression of happiness, extreme ecstasy, celebration, versus one that's painful, the actual expression, the out of context sort of snapshot, is impossible to differentiate those two states, which I find super interesting, because you have here this Three of Emotions card, which is talking about, I see this as being like you get like a future vision, right? Like you arrive at a significant checkpoint, you're about to enter into something new, but the three fates visit you and give you an out of context snapshot where it's just like they give you riddles, right? They give you riddles to say, in this next phase, you will encounter this blank something. It's out of context though, so you don't know whether or not it's going to be positive or negative or whatever, because none of the context is there yet. You just have the snapshot picture. And so perhaps you're sort of getting an insight that there is pain ahead. Perhaps it's that. Perhaps it's the total opposite of what, like, you're expecting something to be painful or difficult, but it's actually going to be ecstasy. I don't know. There's something about that, that dynamic that you have to have almost both, or like, in order to experience one, you must know what the other feels like, is kind of how it's coming through. But you also have like this harmony card, which I feel like is just more of that energy of like the balancing, because I see this as balancing stones, that it does take sort of like stillness and quiet and skill in order to be able to perhaps experience the full complete picture of it, or to know what the complete picture is. Which is interesting. Okay, and then but you also have here the Nine of Materials and the Knight of Inspiration. I don't know why I keep calling this the Ace of Inspiration. It's the second time I've done that. But the last time this Knight of Inspiration came out, I was thinking about my dog who detests fireworks. Like it's something like that, where there's an energy here of like something that is positive being interpreted in a negative way, or the reverse, something that's negative that is being interpreted in a positive way. So that might be something to consider. Like maybe there's something that you're perceiving as negative, but others would interpret as being sort of a celebratory event, or the reverse. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one it is, but you have a lot of this sort of inspiration, right? This inspiration energy that's coming through, all of this sort of like passion, fiery, creative energy that's happening for you. But perhaps there's this energy of like having to first go through something that's the opposite in order for you to experience the positive effects of it. Because it may also be something like the fact that like artists and creatives often draw from their most painful experiences in order to create something beautiful and wonderful and lovely and able to be celebrated, right? It's drawing, perhaps there's an element here of like needing to draw on anger and sadness. That's interesting. Okay, I'm actually going to pause here because we have, we're at 20 minutes almost, and I want to move on to the next part. I will do that in the extended. It's where's an area of growth for you, Capricorn. The extended's posted, so you can go watch that immediately. I do have other videos if you're interested in watching those. Thanks so much for sharing your energy with me, and I'll see you in the next one.